I don't know about you, but when I think about Monsanto, the first thing that comes to mind is food safety enemy number one. After all, I'm talking about a company that went from producing cancerous gems like DDT, PCBs, and Agent Orange to genetically re-engineering a staggering portion of the food wheat here in the U.S. Just to give you a sense of how monopolistic this industry has become, consider this. 40% of the world's GM crops are grown in the U.S., where Monsanto alone controls 80% of the corn and 93% of the soy. Corn and soy make up the base of almost every processed food item in this country. Interestingly enough, America is unique in its production and consumption of GMOs. Every other industrialized country has either completely banned or at the very least labeled GM products. Why? Because these countries have recognized the risks associated with them. Most recently, a French scientist concluded that GM corn leads to tumors in rats. So, with this knowledge, why is the U.S. government giving Monsanto a blessing of deregulation? And not just a blessing to sell their products, but to sell them with a guarantee that consumers have no idea what they're actually eating. So the answer is simple. The government has no shame when it comes to the revolving door policy between private industry and regulation. It all started when George Bush Sr. deemed GM crops as substantially equivalent to non-GM crops. After that declaration was made, the floodgates opened and saturated the market with untested food products. This policy continues today because of the dozens of U.S. government employees that have a personal stake ensuring that Monsanto meets its bottom line. Take, for example, former Democratic Congressman Toby Moffett. This Connecticut lawmaker worked in Congress for 8 years before he became a lobbyist for Monsanto. Or, think that's a conflict of interest? How about the career history of Margaret Miller? She originally worked as a researcher on bovine growth hormone, or BGH, for Monsanto, and now she publishes research papers on BGH for the FDA. And get this, her research was backed by Michael Taylor, the current Deputy Commissioner for Policy at the FDA. This guy epitomizes the revolving door. First, Taylor was a lawyer for Monsanto. Then he joined the FDA's Deputy Commissioner for Foods. Then he went back to Monsanto and became its Vice President for Public Policy. Yeah, I'm sure his FDA position didn't help open that door. But don't worry, he's now back in the FDA in the same cushy position as he was before, rubber stamping pro-Monsanto legislation. And he's not alone. Take Marcia Hale and Josh King, who left their jobs at the White House for lobbying positions at Monsanto. Meanwhile, Virginia Weldon and Lydia Watford ditched their positions at the chemical giant for 2 job openings at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I mean, really? You think that there was an underground tunnel between the White House and Monsanto? Even the kings and queens in the highest court of the land have ties to the mega corporation. Clarence Thomas used to be an attorney for the ag giant, and now he sits as Justice of the Supreme Court. But you know, if there's one person you can thank for it all, it's Mr. Roger Beachy. Beachy's research for Monsanto led to the world's first genetically modified crop. So, knowing all of this, is it any wonder why Congress snuck in an extension to the Monsanto Protection Act in the latest spending bill? And this has been your revolving door alert of congressional sellouts, as always, sponsored by Monsanto.